Hey, everybody. Welcome to the post-event panel discussion with our HR executive brain trust. We just wrapped up a fantastic brain trust. We talked a lot about a lot of challenges. Obviously, a lot of them are related to the Great Resignation. How do you retain employees? How do you find employees? How do you onboard employees? But one of the topics that we want to talk about today with this great panel right here before me, is a lot of what seems to be a challenge currently in the space is how does the role of HR help promote self-care to employees coming back to the office or who are working remotely? So a lot of mental health conversations happening right now in the HR space. So that's what our panel discussion is going to be. We're going to take a quick less than 10 minutes to discuss this. And we've got some fantastic people here with me today to share some of the things that they're doing in their organizations that are helping employees with their mental health. To kick us off, I'd actually like to turn the time over to Haley, who's the lead clinician at Navati. Navati is gracious enough to put this community together, and she has some really good ideas on how HR as a role can help promote self-care and how employees can also have self-care as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Haley.
Thanks, Paul. This is a topic I talk about actually quite a bit. And so some main ideas that come to mind are having the conversations. It's been found in many studies that employees will feel more comfortable about doing things for their mental health, getting the care that they need, or talking to other people about it if they're struggling at work. If it's being talked about inside the company, they'll feel a lot more comfortable talking about it. So opening up the conversation, I'd say, is one key piece. And the other key piece, it says in the office or working remotely, every person's mental health self-care is going to look different. So what's going to work for one isn't going to work for another. And we see that a lot at Navati, and we try to offer various options for people to get that self-care and well-being that they need. Because some people love doing therapy and some people don't. They just want to do other things. And so having the variety of options is really helpful because nobody's mental health care looks the same.
Excellent, Haley. Thank you.
One question
David.
I have found it really interesting having this conversation with a number of different employers and friends and family and whatnot. And I find that there is maybe, I don't know if it's a disconnect, but a lack of trust, like where managers think that employers are using mental health as almost like a crutch to not do work, especially remotely. How do you address that? Because I find that conversation, one, to be annoying when I have to actually have that conversation with people, but it comes up so frequently. I think a lot of people have this idea. How do you address that? Like, what's the best way to try to promote trust that actually mental health is, you just got to trust people that what they're dealing with is what they're dealing with?
Hi, I'm Melinda. So is your question, how do you get trust, or how do you gain trust from your team?
Well, from the management team is really, I find a lot of managers don't trust their employees when they say, I have to take a mental health day or a sick day. Like there's a lack of trust that they don't really believe that that's really the issue. And so my question is like, how do you start to promote that trust that you as a manager need to trust your employees that their mental health is important to them?
I'll speak to that perhaps. I think first off, starting off with, it doesn't matter. Like, I don't care why you need to take time off. It's really none of my business. And what I really want is the best version of you here at work. And so why do we seem to care if someone's going to Disneyland for a week? We don't seem to think that's a big deal, but now I'm going to give you like a million questions about why you think you need to take today off because you're not feeling your full self. The reason there's probably not a whole lot of trust there is because the culture itself doesn't trust the employees. So it's not necessarily trusting them because they're taking a mental health day. That to me is a symptom of the fact they just don't trust them in general. And I think that's an excuse. I think what we probably need to look at is, how are leaders treating leaders, and how are then those leaders treating their employees? Because it all starts at the top. So if the level of trust and transparency isn't there from the very top all the way through the organization, we're probably gonna have a problem. And I think the other piece is we as the leaders need to walk the talk. And the fact that if we're gonna sit here and tell you to go ahead and take time off and that we truly value mental health, I shouldn't be asking you a million questions about it. What I've done is I've asked my people, so when's your next day off? When's the next day that I can expect to see you're out of office? When's the next time that you're gonna take some time for you? And I make that almost a requirement to some degree because I'm concerned for their own well-being, and I want them to go out and have fun and spend time with their families and take that time for themselves. But I really think it's the culture of the organization. It's what we do as leaders, and we have really no business, as far as I'm concerned, asking somebody why they need to take today off. What really matters is outcomes, and if you can get it done in 25 hours a week, goody for you. If it takes you 55 hours a week, well, we might want to have a conversation because that's a little excessive, but it's really none of my business, personally.
Amen. I like that. Thank you.
In our team, in our group team before this one, that's what we talked about. So some of the ideas were PTO, creative PTO, and you're very right. I never asked, and that's kind of an HR issue. You don't, PTOs pay time off. I don't know what you're doing, who you're doing, what you're doing, but you're taking the day off. So we talked about creative PTO. So maybe Fridays, some part of the teams, maybe Monday, so everyone has an extended weekend. And so we called it kind of creative PTO. And then another idea was Wednesday mindfulness day. So there was a lot of meditation. I know I meditate and it really helps me. So I really promote it. Just a 2-minute meditation is so helpful. I mean, you have to actually practice it in order to believe it, because people don't believe it until you do it. That's like working out. You have to actually work out and get the results, and then you believe it. Well, I can actually walk better because so we talked about the Wednesday mindfulness. It can be Zumba. We talked about yoga, virtual yoga, Zumba, meditations, and music. Someone does the same. When I was working in the office, I would just put music on, classic guitar in the background, and people would walk by the office and say, "Oh, your office is so zen," and the music. And so the walk the talk is being a model to people. You have to be the model. You can't just, I think we live in a culture that we're not walking the talk a lot. Unfortunately, I'm going to call it out as it is. So we need to walk the talk. We need to be that zen. We need to be that support. So that came up, the music one, and I've done that before. I would play a crazy song, maybe from the 90s, like, oh yeah, and on a Friday. And everyone's like, oh my goodness, it's of course it's coming from Melinda's office. Just to, break that intense, because we know that we as HR, we have an intense job. I tend to focus too much. So I'm, ultra focused. I need to break that and live a little. So that came up. We had a great team talk. What else? Just think of do different. Let's do different today to break that. So all these things came up for the mental well-being and for connecting with your team and gaining trust. And I like what you said, just walk the talk, but don't say you're going to walk the talk. Actually model it and do it. That's what I have. That's what we did in our talk.
I love what you just said, Melinda. And if I could bring Jerry and Melinda together, and then I'm going to share a little bit about from my own life. So a lot of people out there know that I love rivers. I love to be part of rivers. And what's fascinating about rivers is when you are traveling down a river, you're in the current. On the sides of the river or behind a rock, there are these little things called eddies. And what an eddy is as the current passes an object, it actually circulates back up river to create these little pockets. And so as a river person, when you're getting ready to jump into a rapid or you need to take a break, you often use eddies. Eddies are slower, slack water. It's a place where the water's just kind of, you're out of the current, right? And so for both of you, you and Jerry and Melinda and Haley, what you were talking about as well is organizationally, how do we create eddies where people can get out of the current, out of the intensity of their jobs, which gives them permission. First of all, they have to recognize that they can take that time off. They can eddy out of the current if they want to. And then what you were saying, Melinda, in terms of like Meditation Wednesdays, you just created an eddy, right? For your entire organization, take it or leave it. But this is a space that we've made where you can take time for yourself because we feel like that's important. And so a lot of really fascinating, really great things. I love what Haley, what you were saying as well, in terms of recognizing that everybody's eddy might be different. You know, someone might really be passionate about meditation, but they also might get their own personal, insights in a different way. So just creating that space where people can explore that, I think is really cool. And it allows you to not, maybe that's the fun part of HR is you're able to create these spaces where, you're doing your employees a favor and giving them that permission to take time off. Any other last thoughts or insights before we wrap up?
Just one additional thing, what Melinda was talking about with their extended weekends. One of the organizations I worked with actually had half-day Fridays for the 12 weeks of summer because there was, kids are out of school, for example, and they wanted to make sure that they provided ample opportunity for people to have that connection with their families and take the long weekends. Now, some people chose to stay in the office and work on Friday through the end of the day just to be available for the field, and chose then to come in later on Monday. To Melinda, to your point, but giving them that choice and being able to give them that option and normalizing the fact that it was okay is a big piece. And I think that normalization is the part that we need to get better at, and creating those eddies, those spaces. And I love, Melinda, what you were talking about with your Meditation Wednesdays and just encouraging people to find their thing, and support them doing it, I think is the other piece. And I think that's us as leaders flat out asking them, just like I talked about, when is your next day? When are you taking that time? So that they know that it's okay. And if I don't take time off, Jerry's going to ask me because I really want them out. Like, go do your thing. I want the best version of you. And the only way I'm going to do that is if you recharge your batteries and take care of you.
I wanted to add, I think that's really important. I wanted to add that when you're doing these things, the intention really comes out. Believe it or not, people can see your intention. And you start shifting that company culture, hopefully. So it becomes, I think we've lost track of what does human resources mean, human resource. If your human resource is happy, your company's succeeding. Your company's making more profits, more revenue, more everything. The numbers are going up because, and you can take it in different scenarios in your life. If that's happy, this is good, things are better. So we lost that for a bit. Human resource, let's get that. So the intention changes everything. I agree. Anyway.
Excellent points. We do need to wrap up now, but I appreciate that. And that's such a good way to end, Melinda. Thank you so much for those insights. Thank you everyone who contributed, and we'll see you all at the next HR Executive Brain Trust.